There's a lake by a stream that reflects a moonlight beam in my heart and in my dreams of Wabakimi. There's a call of a loon and the path of my canoe along the ridge of the caribou in Wabakimi. I can still hear her white waters falling as the campfire slowly burns, and her whispering pines are calling, calling for my return. I can still hear her white waters falling as the campfire slowly burns, and her whispering pines are calling, calling for my return. Oh, I long for the place where her waters dance with grace, and the peace I know that waits in Wabakimi. A part of me will always be in Wabakimi.
Wabakimi Provincial Park, north of Thunder Bay, is Ontario's second largest park with nearly 9,000 square kilometers of protected boreal forest and wildlife habitat. I think my favorite thing about Wabakimi is its remoteness. You feel like you're right there with nature, and if that's what you're looking for, I'd really make sure to add Wabakimi to your list. There are hundreds of ways to plan a trip through Wabakimi. This is what my 7-day, 73-kilometer journey looked like. Wabakimi Park is easiest to access through one of the local outfitters. I used Wabakimi outfitters to help plan my trip and shuttle me into my start point at Tamarack Lake. My point to point route took me northwest out of Tamarack into the Boiling Sand River and south to Mastodon Lake, where I spent my first night at a gorgeous north facing campsite. Got in just after sunset and it was really beautiful. Day two brought torrential rainfall for nearly the whole day. I decided to try to make my next planned campsite anyway and brave the rain and wind. I made it through a few portages before taking me through Nice Lake and Bath Lake before I got stuck with really heavy headwind at the very open Collins Lake for about 4 hours. Eventually, the wind came down enough that I could make it across the lake, and I eventually rolled into an absolutely stunning campsite at twilight that was well worth the push through the rain. By now, the rain had stopped, and I got to enjoy the colorful horizon across the now calm Shawabinis Lake. The next morning, now on day three, I continued south out of Shawabinis Lake into what felt like a labyrinth of reeds that made for a really relaxing and pretty fun morning paddle. I had a little trouble finding the portage here, ending up a little too close to the rapids, and I ended up doing some very unnecessary bushwhacking. I eventually made it back onto the portage trail, though. After a short paddle through Boulder Lake, I had another 900-meter portage into Kenniscanis Lake. At the south end of the lake, I turned west onto the Kopka River. A few more short portages from there, and I was in Hook Lake. This was the first moment of the trip where I felt like I could actually exhale and relax a bit. I pulled into my campsite just in time for a beautiful sunset and magic hour at the series of rapids at the West Hook Lake campsite. I fell asleep to the sound of rushing water. It does not get much better than that. Day four was a bit of backtracking to get me back out of Hook Lake. No complaints from me, as it was a calm and sunny day, and I really fell in love with Hook Lake. On the way out, I went past one of the many trapper cabins that you'll find scattered throughout Wabakimi. I went south out of Hook Lake, back onto the Kopka River, and from there I continued south back onto Kenniscanis Lake to the world-class campsite I found on the south-facing rock. The weather had turned into a beautiful sunny day, and I got to enjoy a few hours relaxing in the sun, enjoying the complete remoteness that you can only feel after being alone in nature for a few days. Day five, I was up early, excited to get into the Kopka Rapids. I had a beautiful paddle through the south end of Kenniscanis Lake before coming up to the first set of the upper falls. I spent some time exploring the upper falls before I continued through, and they were actually really cool. There are some pretty challenging portages through here, particularly if you're solo. The falls are not runnable, so if you're coming this way, you're going to have to take the portages, so make sure you're ready for some extreme portaging. When I got to the lower falls, the landscape started to change into what I consider to be the best of the Canadian Shield. There was lots of high cliffs, small rock islands and outcroppings, and untouched evergreen forests containing spruce, pine, and cedar, really as far as you could see in all directions. The campsite I stayed at on my fifth night might have been my favorite, just for the view alone. I got there early enough in the day that I could spend some time relaxing on the rocks and exploring the shoreline, enjoying some of the best views that I've ever seen in Ontario. The next morning, day six, I woke up and had a quick waterfall shower in a waterfall in a stream nearby, and then I continued through the last of the falls. And I think it's safe to say that the best was saved for last. I found an almost 20-foot high, 50-foot wide waterfall, and man, the water was cascading down the rocks. I could have sat and watched these falls for hours. For my last night, I continued out into Wigwassin Lake. There's a really cool campsite I found on an island in the middle of the lake. It was a little windy out, and the island actually provided some nice shelter and a little bit of sun as well. Made it for a really nice place to relax and make a meal. In hindsight, I probably should have stayed here for the night, but I decided to push on. I made it to the east end of Wigwassin Lake, and I camped there. Day seven, my last morning of the trip, I had a pretty easy paddle through Wabakimi Lake, which took me through a really neat area with some pictographs along the rocky shoreline before reaching the end of my journey. The canoe route was pretty special, and I'd recommend looking into Wabakimi if this trip sounds like your kind of thing. I always appreciate my time when I get to spend it alone in nature, and it's amazing to me that places like this still exist for us all to explore. It's a beautiful world we live in. Get outdoors and enjoy it.
photo contest winners are: in first place, Lachlan McVie for Night Watch. Second place is Rob Clavins for Boulder Lake Bay. And third place, Rob Clavins for Kapka Dam. And our video contest winners are: in first place, Michael McCaffrey, Canoeing in Wabakimi, the Northwest Ontario Wilderness at its best. And in second place, Daniel Castile for Wabakimi Resident. And in third place, Chris Schmidt for Sunset on the Mohican Channel. Thank you to all who entered the contest. And a big thanks to our judges, Lisa KC, Kip Ladage, and John Sinclair.